end of August. And we had a pre-launch webinar. And since then, thank you all very much for taking part in the study. And we have also worked very hard to look at the results and sharing back the reports to all of you. So thank you. Today, this is the time we will look at the findings. And I hope you will be able to find out more about how to read your reports. Okay, I just want to share the team to you. Yeah, so you may be seeing just me today as the presenter, but we do have a big team behind us working on this project. So the DAI study is a collaboration among 3 ministries. That is from NCSS, from MCCY, as well as MOH and AIC, supported by our consultants from BCG. And with this, we try to do a digital maturity study for the whole of non-profit sector. So these are the faces that you can put to the names. They are your contact persons. So if you still have questions or inquiries related to DAI after this session, you may contact them. Okay, so for today's agenda, oh, sorry, one more. How can I miss our guest speakers from SASCO? So we're also very happy to have Eric with us from SASCO. So he will be sharing with us his experience on the digital strategy planning journey. And especially they are an organization that has participated in both DAI studies in 2021 and 2023. And they have gone on to use those results for their organizational planning. So we'll be looking forward to hear the sharing from them on how they have used the results. Okay, yes, and today's agenda. So we will primarily cover 3 sections. So the first one will be on the DAI survey and some of the key findings. And we will have a section that is dedicated to reading your individual feedback packs. So we have sent out all the feedback packs in early January. So during that section, you can also refer to your individual reports as we go along the instructions. All right, yes, and we're going to have a little quiz at that time as well. So you may really want to take notes as you go along. Okay, after that, the second part, it's really the sharing on using DAI for digital strategy planning by SASCO. And finally, I will come back to wrap up on the funding and support resources that you can tap on. We'll have the Q&A at the end. Please feel free to put in your questions in the Q&A function box as we go along. I will try to cover everything, but if not, then we'll have to probably get back to you offline. All right? Okay, now to kick off the session. Okay, I'm happy to pass on the time now to, hold on. Yes, I'm happy to pass on the time now to our director, Eileen. Yeah, for to kick off this session for us. Oh, Eileen, you have a beautiful lantern behind you. Okay, go on.
Okay, hi everyone. Sorry, I'm dialing in from outside. Okay, it's a bit of noise here. Yeah, I just want to say thank you for taking the time this afternoon to come alongside to learn to look at your results and more importantly to see and to consider where you would go with the results that you have, right? The DAI as a survey, I think it's quite a long and complex survey lah. So I hope it wasn't too difficult to fill in, and it was a rather pleasant experience for everyone to reflect on, you know, where you have been with the digital journey and perhaps consider where you would like to go, right? If there's any feedback on the DAI survey itself, we'll also be happy to take in the feedback. The next one we are expecting to do will be in actually at the end of 2026, right? So with your feedback, maybe, you know, we can do some improvements to it to make it a little bit more user-friendly and perhaps easier to understand. But nonetheless, I think it has been great that you have put in a lot of effort to actually take the time, I mean, almost an hour, if I believe, to actually do the survey. So we appreciate that because there's about like 200 over agencies, more than half of our members have actually made an effort, and also other charities to come in to do this survey. And because of the numbers that we have, we are actually able to give you a sector-wide trend to see where we are as one whole sector. So that's really important, right? That many of you participate. So for those of you who are on the call who did not participate in the DAI, I would really encourage you to do so when we launch it again at the end of 2026. So for today, I think maybe take in the points that's going to be shared, and please ask many questions so that you as an agency, you can benefit from how to use this result to the best, for your journey. And as a sector, we also want to grow. So let's see what we can do together. The other thing is, after this webinar, actually, there are other sessions that we're going to have, right? Clinics and all that. So can I also seek you to take some time, maybe consider attending the clinics? If you want to take a deeper dive, we are happy to journey with you. We will try and have as many clinics as possible, depending on the demand. And it will also be helpful if you could tell us what exactly you would like to know more about, so that we can make the clinics very meaningful for you. We are not able to do a one-to-one for everybody, but I think it depends on the situation. So for certain agencies, depending on the complexities and situation, perhaps you can approach us if you need one-to-one guidance. But otherwise, I would really encourage you to come for the clinics. Okay, so I'm not going to say too much. I'm going to hand over the time back to Tracy. And I just wish all of you a very good afternoon. I'm so sorry I have to hop off to another meeting. And I do look forward to seeing each and every one of you along the way in the next 2-3 years as we journey together to get to the digital maturity that the sector is looking towards. All right, Tracy, over to you.
Thanks, Eileen. Thank you. Hey, thanks, Eileen, for the heads up as well. Later, we are going to talk a little bit more about the clinic sessions that she mentioned. All right, so just look up for that in the funding and support resources segment. All right, right now I'm going to pass the time over to the BCG team, Seng Chi and Ronnie, to bring us through the DAI report. Thank you.
Thanks, Eileen. First, hi everyone. Good afternoon. Thanks a lot for taking the time to join us. I'm Seng Chi. I'm a principal in BCG Singapore office, and I have the privilege of working with Eileen, Tracy, and team on this study. I think I'd like to start off on the next page with a big thank you to all of you. As Eileen mentioned, I think many of you have taken the time to really participate in this survey. This is the largest survey. We almost got twice as many respondents across the whole nonprofit sector as last year. More than 500 respondents. Right, the survey was relatively long, and we recognize that. So really big thank you for doing that. And also to the agencies that also took the time to speak to us, to share some more of the qualitative stories, and also work with us through some of the documentation and to understand the nuances behind some of the scores. Really big thank you for that. Right. Now, what we'll try and do today is to really go through what we found through this effort, and also then hopefully drive into action. And as we all know, the nonprofit sector is a critical part of our social fabric in Singapore, supporting the marginalized, keeping everyone uplifting communities, and making sure that we're a much more inclusive society. And all of you have been part of making this happen, but we also face a range of challenges, as what we've heard from you. Workforce dynamics, aging workforce, dependency ratios, are going up, shifting in an unfavorable manner. Social needs are becoming much more complex. Many people have many more needs, multiple needs, which require close coordination across the sector. There's rising digital expectations, both for our clients, but also our employees, and our donors and volunteers. And there's also rapid advances in technology that's shaping the art of the possible, and many of us also see this in the private sector or personal lives as well. And all of us need to manage some of these tensions. And we think digitalization is one of the levers. It's not the only lever, but it's one of the levers that allows us to manage this better and achieve better outcomes. To be able to reach more clients, engage customers, clients, donors, volunteers better, allow our workers, social workers, to be more high touch with clients, freeing up capacity, focusing on higher value add activities, and also attract and retain top talent. As we've heard, that's a key thrust here for us as well. And so I think NCSS, AIC, and CCY have all done a range of things. And admittedly, this page is more on the NCSS side, in terms of resources available. But there's a range of resources that have been curated to be able to better help you navigate this ecosystem. I think two of them you'll be relatively familiar with. I think the first is a 4ST. I think this was articulated a few years ago, with a vision of the social service sector and now expanded to 4 thrusts. To us, that's really the destination. This is what we're working towards, the ambition, the North Star. Then there is a DAI, which tells you where you are today. This is a survey that you filled up. Each of you have gotten your individual feedback packs. It's across multiple dimensions, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But it gives you a sense of where you are at an agency level, where are you versus your peers, and where are you versus your own individual target. And then there is the IDPSS, or eventually what we call the SSDP, right? The Social Service Digital Plan, right? That's a roadmap that then allows you to say, if you want to make certain steps, how do you actually get there? And this is something that we're working with NCSS on doing and launching, and I think we'll be launching it in second half of this year. Right? So these are 3 different resources. Admittedly, there are still many, many more. Right? And Tracy will go through a longer list of resources later part of this discussion on this webinar. But this is just to orient you around the most, I guess, critical sources, right, for you to navigate on this journey of where you are today to where you want to be. And let me just spend a bit more time on what the DAI is. So the DAI is this tool that we at BCG developed, and we've deployed it globally across many countries in private sector, public sector, and social service sector. Right? And it's really a framework to help us think about holistic digital maturity. And why do we think about it holistically? Because at the end of the day, to us, digitalization or digital transformation is not just about deploying individual technologies. It's really about a holistic review of how you're actually operating, from your strategy in terms of how things tie into the outcomes that your organization wants to achieve, and also looking at things like people, processes, ways of working, partnerships to transform operations. And so the way we do this, as those of you who fill in the survey will see, right, we have many dimensions, which we rank on 4 different maturity stages, and then we convert that into a score, right? And from there, that aggregates into your DAI score as an individual SSA or agency. And then after, we also aggregate that into the sector level scores to look at overall how the sector is trending and evolving over time. And on the next slide, we just shows you a bit more granularity. I think you have this in your packs about the 33 dimensions, right, across the different facets of strategy, operations, new digital services, people, processes, data, tech, etc. Really just to get a 360 view of where is your organization on the ingredients that are needed to successfully do digital transformation. Now, I won't belabor the front part too much to say, okay, this is what a DAI is. That's just really context, right, as to why we're doing this, how we're doing this, and why we think this is important. But more importantly, now let me just share with you some of the top line findings from what we learned this year. So I think first, right, when we think about 4 stages we saw earlier, digital starter to digital leader, right? This is a non-profit sector. I know some of you have seen the social sector score. I mean, there's some minor nuances, but it's directionally quite similar. I mean, non-profit sector in Singapore is currently a digital starter. This is a score of 21 across the board. You do see some level of higher maturity in strategy, and this is what we would expect as well, because typically strategy is the first step to being able to transform your operations. You always come with saying, what's your plan, what's your vision and roadmap, and then cascade it down. But even then, it's still borderline digital literate. Across the board below, you see it's roughly similar, although it's perhaps somewhat weaker on stakeholder offer engagement and somewhat stronger on support functions. Support functions are your back-end functions like finance, HR services, etc. And we've also heard that anecdotally through the interviews, through the engagements that many of us actually look at doing more immediate productivity gains, right, versus trying to actually change the front-end service delivery. And so this is roughly where we are at a sector. But given this is the second time, we thought it's also useful to actually look at how this has changed over time. And so on the next page, what we see is, right, the trends are the building block level over time. And what we see is 2 factors, right? I think the first, across the board, there is a broad decline in overall digital maturity across most of the building blocks. Part of this is driven by a larger sample size, where we actually is more representative today, because we're getting many, many more of you to participate. But part of this, even for those who had participated in both years, it's also in response to some of the macroeconomic conditions, and it's also in line with what we see in the private sector, where because of uncertainty, because of higher costs, because of various other reasons, right, shorter term operations takes precedence versus thinking about digitalization. And we'll come to and talk about that, what we heard in a little bit. But what we did see is an increase in maturity for support functions and collaboration, right? And so that's also good, because then there's some level of positive trajectory and some level of traction there. The question then is, how do we actually build this and actually build on this, right, to be able to achieve the ambitions that we want and increase digital maturity? Because if going back to the pressures that we talked about earlier, right, this is really an important lever. Again, not the only lever, but an important lever to help us really navigate and balance and achieve the outcomes on a continued basis in the coming years. So let's share a little bit of what we heard from you. I think the first is really about bandwidth and priorities, right? Across the board, these are some quotes from you, again, anonymized. But I think there's some sentiment that digitalization is a separate secondary goal that is additional on top of your BAU. I think that's something that came up consistently from our discussions. And I think one thing we wanted to just address is that actually is not really the case, right? You need to think of it in a more holistic manner where digitalization is an enabler or lever to help you achieve your goals. So it's really not that, okay, I have an organizational goal and I have a digital strategy that's separate from it, but more that this is my organizational goal overall, and this is what I want to achieve, the outcomes I want to achieve for my organization. And there are a range of levers that you want to do. Some of it's deploying technology, some of it's upskilling, some of it's process redesign, some of it's portfolio review, but all together, these achieve your goals, right? So it's really about thinking, a paradigm shift in how you think about deploying technology and how you use it. And once you actually make that link quite clear, to say these are the strategic outcomes that you get from it, then naturally you will then impact resource allocation, prioritization, accountability, having the right manpower or finances needed internally in your organization to be able to achieve that goal, right? And the reason why we land this is because when we de-average it by different dimensions, and what you see, this is quite a complex chart. Your x-axis here was your starting maturity for each of the dimensions, right? So each dot is one of the dimensions we showed earlier. And your y-axis is a change from 2021 to 2023. And so in general, what you do see is most dimensions had a decrease. What you see above the line is what we talked about earlier. Some of the support functions, right? Corporate functions, reporting, fundraising, data governance, cloud adoption, much of which has been the thrust of the push for Tech and Go and some of the other funds, right, has increased. But when you look below, I think what we are a bit worried about is the bottom right. So the bottom right is where you have higher starting maturity, but you see the largest decrease. And these are two in the strategy box. So there's ambition, right? Digital ambition and awareness. So the reason why this is a bit worrying is because if you start to reduce or decrease your ambition, right? This is a leading indicator for future growth. And if you feel that then perhaps maybe because the last survey was during COVID and therefore digital was a big thrust to say, I can't even operate if I don't do digital. And therefore there was a big imperative. Whereas now, perhaps there's a sentiment we've also heard that, oh, COVID's over, we can go back, right? That's also a bit of a concern because then if we go forward, given the macroeconomic, given the demographic shifts, right, we'll also be in for a shock down the line, right? So that's a bit of a concern, right, where that's putting back. But second, we also recognize that technology is moving very fast. I'm sure many of you have heard of AI, artificial intelligence, or more recently, generative AI, right, with ChatGPT, Bard, and some of these other tools. And really, the awareness part is also the challenging piece where we've heard from you that it's a lot harder for us to actually navigate this space. What is relevant for us? Being aware of relevant use cases, technologies, and translating that into operations or contextualizing that to your operations and then deploying it. So those two are something which may decrease most. And I think we can also talk about perhaps how can we or NCSS and the agencies also work with you to be able to augment or to reverse this trend, right, going forward. But it's all not all bleak, right? We mentioned earlier there's a growth in support functions, and a lot of this is a push for efficiency and what we see clearly, right? So as long as we're able to articulate a impact, an ROI, a cost reduction, a productivity increase, right? Actually, what we've heard from you is that it's actually more straightforward, right? Because then you can say, okay, because I deployed this finance system, right, we spend less time on reconciliation, for example. Or if we actually have a CMS system, then we have less amount of paperwork and therefore reduce administrative work or non-value-added work, right? So for this, we actually do see an increase. And we've heard this from many of you, and some of the quotes are on the right-hand side. And so the question then, going back to earlier, is how do we actually do this connection, right, to direct impact or outcomes for other functions as well to continue to fuel this journey? Now, we also took a lens to say, is it equal across the sector? And unfortunately, the answer is no. We do see a digital divide, right, between the large and small agencies. What you do see on the left-hand side is the overall score, right, where larger agencies tend to be further ahead than smaller agencies as a starting point. And that's not just the case. We look at trajectory as well. The larger agencies are continuing to grow, whereas the smaller ones is where you actually see a larger decline across building blocks. And so this is a concern also, because I think we've got a very heterogeneous sector, right? We've got many players, right? All of you, all of whom play an integral part, right? Different parts of the jigsaw puzzle coming together to actually make it work. And so the question then is, for smaller agencies and medium-sized agencies, we recognize that you are resource constrained, but the question is, how do we actually leverage digital to be able to help you overcome some of these resource constraints? Because in the private sector, we see the same thing with smaller organizations, smaller startups, smaller SMEs as well, right? Being able to use this to overcome some of the more so-called traditional constraints that they face, right? While the larger agencies also, right, tended to grow relatively faster. And we do see this in terms of actual adoption of core solutions. And so what you see on the next page, right, is looking at the adoption of some of these solutions. So we've asked all of you to say, have you adopted or are you planning to adopt some of these productivity solutions, right? And what you see on the x-axis is really the percentage of small organizations adopting it, and the y-axis is the percentage of large organizations. So at a very high level, the top right, the green is where everyone's adopted, right? Websites, Office suite, antivirus, etc. And the bottom left is where it's still very nascent, right? Robotics, RPA, AI, and things like that. But the question then is on the top left, and that's where we do see the gap. So not just a DAI score, because I know that sometimes it may be hard to interpret what the DAI score means. But on the top left is really where the large organizations have started to adopt or actually deployed it, whereas the small organizations have yet to do that. And many of the more foundational solutions, right, whether it's CMS, HRMS, DMS, procurement solutions, etc., right, are in the top left. The question then is, how do we actually facilitate or enable or reduce the frictions, right, for you to be able to adopt some of this? Because as evidently from the larger organizations, right, they are seeing benefits from this as well. Now, this is really a state of where we are today. But we didn't just stop at asking, where's the current state? We've also asked you, what are your ambitions? And again, ambitions-wise, it does not mean that you have to be there in X number of years. I mean, 2027 is just a proxy to just roughly forecast. It doesn't mean that you have to be there. And you also don't have to be a leader, right? Because in the social service sector, right, I think there's a range of other considerations as well, right? It's really a matter of where do we want to be able to achieve the outcomes that we want to, or that we need to. And so this is where we've asked you, and you've shared that you want to be a digital performer. So this is a score of 60, that's almost in the middle of the digital performer range. And you do see a similar profile across almost all of the building blocks, with strategy much further ahead, operations, right, much further ahead than where we are today, and the enablers accordingly as well. And so when we think about comparing the two, right, there is a gap to ambition, and it's relatively consistent across, right, about 35 to 40 points across the board. And the question then is, given this is ambition, again, don't anchor on the year, don't worry about 27, but if we say that this is where we're going to be sometime in the near future, hopefully, then how do we actually make steps, right, whether structurally change how we're doing things or make progress on each of these building blocks so that we'll end up closer to the ambition? Even if we don't meet it, we meet it somewhere halfway or get somewhere further closer to the right. The question is, how do we get there? And what we wanted to share is really 4 common success factors, right, across the board. And again, this is more, sounds more foundational, but it really moves the needle. I think the first is really leadership, commitment, visibility, right? Digitalization needs to be high on the leadership agenda, and leaders at the top, whether you're the board, whether you're EDs or otherwise, right, really championing it to say, look, this is really a part of our strategy, right? It's not just a nice to have, it's not a CCA, right? But it's really core to us being able to achieve the outcomes that we need in the near term and the long term. And for you to do that really is to draw a very tight link between digitalization, digital transformation, and the outcomes it achieves. Whether it is in terms of client engagement, whether it's in terms of increased reach, whether it's in terms of productivity gains, or otherwise, right? Thinking about how do we tie some of the activities you do on a day-to-day basis, right, to how can digital achieve it, help you do it better, and therefore what kind of outcomes you look to get. Because once you're able to articulate that, then it becomes a much tighter story when you're communicating internally and externally to garner buy-in, right, for this journey. Once you have that in place, it's also important to have a dedicated team. So we've heard this across different SSAs or organizations where some of you, because you're resource crunched, therefore you only have a part-time, someone doing part-time or someone doing an ad hoc capacity. The question then is, again, going back to the front, is how important is this going forward, right? We fully recognize that especially a smaller, right, agencies may find it more difficult for you to really have a dedicated person. But even then, if it's just partial capacity or someone who's actually thinking about this with a meaningful amount of time, to think about how do you actually do things better in the long run, because we recognize that day-to-day operations will be all-consuming, will take up time. But having this capacity to be able to think through, right? What does it take to make our day-to-day operations next year better, year after better? I think it's important, and also equipping them with the right skills and capabilities to drive that change. And finally, it's really not just an IT agenda. It's really a whole organization agenda. You need a close collaboration between your technology functions, or what you call IT, with your core service delivery and businesses to really think about what is the art of the possible, and think about how can you really embed this into your business, into your processes. Because again, there's no point deploying a solution that's not utilized, and there's also no point trying to force people to utilize something which may be suboptimal. So really, really working together hand in hand so that you're able to achieve the outcomes that you want to or that you foresee, right, would be very important. And really about involving both sides early from day one, conceptualization, design of the solution, not just later on when you're trying to roll the solution out. But we recognize that for some of you, many of you are still very early on this journey. And so I think don't try and do everything at once, right? If you really need to get started, right, and you don't have anything, really just try and think about how do you actually develop a digital strategy? How do you think about articulating, right, some of the outcomes that you want and how digital can actually get there? And then have conversations with peers in your in the sector of how they've done that. Have conversations with agencies like NCSS, AIC, MCCY to also better understand the kind of support you can get. But really the most important is how do you actually achieve outcomes, strategic outcomes that impact, right? And then you can work backwards from there. And this is also what we heard from you as a top focus area. So on the left-hand side, what we see is where, number one, many of you are looking to focus, right, for the next 12 months. And number two, where you need support, right? And so I think Tracy will cover some of these resources and support mechanisms later on. But really more tactically first, really expand the art of the possible. Go and figure out how other people have used it. If you want, right, ChatGPT is out there. You can also try and use ChatGPT to say, okay, imagine you're an executive director of X, right? And you're looking to try and understand how digital can change things, right? What are 5 technologies or 5 use cases that can really move the needle? So you can try and really understand and expand your understanding of what is out there, right? Even using these tools themselves, right? Then tying it to outcomes, articulating the impact. And if you need to reach out to NCSS, AIC, and NCCY for guidance, funding, and resources, because I think there's a whole suite of support structures that are available to really help you do this. So I know I've gone through a lot of things, but I'll just pause there first and perhaps maybe pass the time to Ronnie to be able to share a little bit more, right, about how we think about the individual gift backpacks and how to read it, because you've received many of these things. Right, of course, happy to, again, take any questions, whether in chat or later on, right, if you have any questions on how to actually think about this or how to get started as well. Cool. So I'll pass it to Ronnie now.
All right, thanks, Xing-Chi. So once again, thank you to everyone that's participated in this study. So those who have participated should have already received an individualized report as a token of appreciation. So in this section, I'll walk you through what is in this report, how to read it, and we'll end off with a quiz as well. So starting with the key sections, there's a section on the overview and key findings of the survey, similar to what Xing-Chi has just covered. Next, there are a few pages with the high-level results of your agency. And then specific to SSAs, there's also a page with relevant NCSS resources you can tap on. And finally, there's a detailed appendix if you want to do a deeper dive into your results. And I will cover some of these key pages in some detail later. So how can you use your results? So back to the previous slide. So first, you can use this pack to help your agency understand the areas where you're strong in, areas where you need improvement, and ultimately which areas you want action on. And earlier, as we shared the analogy about the compass, roadmap, and destination, this pack is like the compass which can help you inform the direction your agency can take. And beyond that, it's also a document which you can use to engage your parent agencies, NCSS, AIC, MCCY, for support and funding, and also use it in discussion with external consultants as well. Next slide. So now let me walk you through how the scoring works, right? Beginning from when you answer each of the questions on the 33 dimensions, all the way to the calculation of the overall score of your agency. So if you recall, every question in the survey was related to one of the 33 dimensions. So example, digital vision, ambition, awareness. Sorry, let's go back to the previous slide. Yeah. And each of these questions has 4 options, right? And each option corresponds to a different level, right? Level 4 right at the top, which being the most mature, all the way down to level 1 being the least mature. So the descriptions you see beside the level boxes are general guidelines on how each of the specific descriptions of the dimensions are crafted in the survey itself. So take, for example, if I'm an agency doing this DAI survey and I've reached a question on digital vision dimension, I might have seen the following descriptions, right? Level 4, right at the top, having digital as a top priority. Moving down, is where having a developed digital strategy and we've shared it across the agency. Then level 2, even lower, we're just starting off to develop a strategy. And level 1, right? Just aware, but have yet to define a digital strategy. So in my case, I may indicate that my agency is just starting out, and hence this corresponds to level 2. And at the same time, maybe my agency also has big aspirations, right, to have digital as a top priority. And hence, I might indicate that in the future, right, my aspiration, my target, right, is at a level 4. Right. So if you take a look at the scoring column, column number 2, it goes from 0 points at level 1 all the way until 100 points at level 4. And this means that if I've chosen level 2 for my current digital maturity, I'll get 33 points. And if I've chosen level 4 for my target digital maturity, I'll be given 100 points. So in the case where an agency's digital maturity is between 2 levels, we've asked that the respondents use their judgment to select the level that is closest in describing where the agency is. So once all the dimension questions are completed, this is where we take a simple average of all the scores to calculate the overarching building block and overall scores for each agency, right? And if there are multiple respondents per agency, right, the average score of all respondents would be used in this case. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. So in your pack, you'll see 2 types of charts, the heat map and the bar chart. So on the left, you'll see the heat map, right? Over here, it shows the 6 building blocks of digitalization with hypothetical scores. So each building block comprise, as mentioned earlier, right, different dimensions under it. So for example, if we look at digital strategy, we might have vision, ambition, awareness, and roadmap under it. And at the bottom right, you'll see the score, in this case, 63 for digital strategy. And the color of this box is also corresponded to the maturity as well. So if you take a look at the bottom, 63 corresponds to a greenish yellow, and digital performer, which is a level 3. On the right side, you see this bar chart. So this is what we have used to show your current target scores on a single diagram, right? So at the bottom, in this case, the current score is 50. At the top, you see the target score is 85. And in between this 35 is what we call the gap between current and target scores, right? Also called the gap to target. So next, let's take a page-by-page walkthrough of our hypothetical agency's results. So on the main overview page over here, you'll find the heat maps of both current and target digital maturity. So on the left shows an agency with an overall current score of 39, and on the right, the target score of 86, right? And as shown earlier, below these are the heat maps of the building blocks under each. Then on to the next slide. This next page gives you a detailed view of the 33 dimensions that is grouped into the 6 building blocks. And not only that, also how it has changed over time from 2021 to 2023. So let me walk you through it in a little bit more detail. So starting from the top, we have one set of columns showing your current scores from the years which your agency did the survey, i.e. the scores from 2021 and 2023. And on the right, another few columns showing the target scores indicated for the respective years. So if we take item D, for example, people and ways of working, we see that in the first column, it shows the current score in which this agency did the survey. So for example, 56, right? And fast forward to 2023, when this agency did the survey again, the current score dropped to 40, right? So this therefore represents a change of negative 16, right? And similarly on the right, we have 3 columns for the target scores. So likewise, 88 for 2021, 70 for 2023, and the change is negative 18 over here. So you may also notice that there are some blank boxes on this page. So you see the red bubble number 3. This can occur in a couple of scenarios. So number 1, if I don't know was selected. If number 2, not applicable was selected because it may not be applicable to some agencies depending on what they do. And number 3, if the agency did not participate in 2021, the entire 2021 columns will appear as not applicable. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so on the last overview page over here, we have a scorecard which kind of summarizes some of the most important information. And this is a useful page which you can refer to in discussions with parent agencies or consultants, for example. So number 1 on the left, you'll find your current and target scores across the building blocks. And second, specific to SSAs, you'll find the corresponding chapters of the refresh IDPSS that you can read to learn more about each building block. And at the top right, number 3, you see your top motivators and challenges. All these are as indicated by your agency, whoever filled in the survey. And at the bottom right, these are the areas which your agency has indicated where you all want to focus on and where support is needed. So now that we've covered the overview, let's talk about a little bit about the appendix if you want to do a deeper dive. So a couple of things inside. So first, you see heat maps of your current target scores at a dimension level. Second, a comparison of your agency with the sector. So you'll see a comparison with peers of similar service type as well, peers of similar size. So I think it's a good pages to see if you want to get an idea of where your agency stands among peers. And finally, the solutions which your agency has adopted, likewise, as filled in by the respondents as well. All right, so I hope that you now have a good understanding of what's inside the packs. And this also means that it is quiz time. So let's see who has paid close attention. So while I give some of the information, please take your phones out, scan the QR code that will be shown on screen. And let me just go into a little bit of details on what you can expect, right? So this is a quiz which we will host on Kahoot. So let's use this tech-enabled quiz platform. There'll be 8 MCQ questions, and let's see you can get all 8 right? So very simple. Scan the QR code, go to this website, and enter the game pin. Right? Keep the Zoom window open so you can follow along. All right? Fastest fingers first. There are only 200 slots in this game room over here. Okay, so Tracy and myself will host this segment of the game. All right. Over to you,
thanks,
Tracy.
Ronnie. Yes, wow, it's really exciting. A lot of information, and we have quite a lot of questions. We'll try to take them at the Q&A session, but right now let's have this quiz, all right, and see whether everyone has a good understanding of the report. Let's see. You know, it's always very interesting to see people's nicknames. We've got a lucky number there. Total number 9694294. Okay.
Okay, we still see people streaming in.
Yes,
all right.
awesome.
Okay.
Come on.
All right, pick a cool nickname, right?
Yes, pick a cool nickname. Let's see who has the coolest. Oh, you know, 5566. Ronnie, do you know who that is?
No.
I mean, do you know what this signifies? You're
Nope.
probably not in that generation.
No idea.
It's a very popular boy band in my time. So whoever put 5566, I know how old you are. Okay, obviously someone is overwhelmed. Okay, we hope you get more information about this after the session. Okay, we have more people. Come on, 150. Wow, we have 300 over participants today. Hey.
I see someone just put a full stop. I wonder who's that. So mysterious.
Yes.
Okay, remember in this game, it's not just getting the correct answers, right? It's fastest fingers get the highest scores as well. So speed matters also.
Fastest finger with the right answer. So in case anyone is wondering whether there are any prizes, the answer is no. I wish I could give you a prosperity ang pao, but
okay, maybe we'll give you a big round of applause.
Yes, exactly. So wherever you are, if you came in on the podium later, we'll have you to turn on your TV, your video, so that we could give you a round of applause because you're our top student. Okay, we still have more people coming in. Oh, what's that? Someone is on the way to the airport, is it? Taking off soon. Rushing to jet off.
I think they're taking their digitalisation journey to new heights.
Wow, that's a very good interpretation. Zooming out. Is there anyone who will come in with a rocket? Yeah, will be faster than the airplane.
Okay, I think the numbers are stabilizing. Maybe let's start when we reaches 165.
Yes, one more. Okay, let's go.
All right, okay, let's go. Okay, get your phones ready, okay? Okay, let's begin with the first question. All right, what are these resources that your agency can leverage as you chart your digitalization journey? Okay, let's see if we recall this slide. Okay, what is the corresponding answer for D, destination, R, roadmap, and C, compass? What is it?
Wow, very fast. All the answers are coming in.
Oh, this is surprisingly fast.
Yes.
Okay, 10 seconds left.
This should be a giveaway, I think. This is the first question. Let's see.
Okay, 1 second. Okay, time's up. All right, so most people put C, which is the correct answer. Well done. Okay, so let me just quickly talk through this. Okay, so C is, okay, compass stands for, refers to your DAI assessment, right? See where you're strong in, not so strong in, and help you point you in the right direction, right? Roadmap for the SSAs, this would be the Social Services Digitalization Playbook, and the destination, the 4ST. Okay, let's see who's in the leaderboard.
Oh wow, so exciting. This is our first question.
Oh, Boo. Okay,
Went
Boo
to
is leading.
Boo. Okay. All right, just the first question. Yeah. Okay, let's go on and see whether people will overtake. The second question, what is the main purpose of your DAI report? Is it to lay out a strategic plan? Is it for you to have an overview of the sector scores? Is it your scores? Or is it to recommend you digital technologies? All of them sound like fairly legit answers, isn't it?
Okay, the crux is what is the main purpose, right,
I
Tracy?
see. So that's the key word. What is the main purpose of the individualized pack?
Okay, 2 seconds.
Okay, 2 seconds. Ding. Oh wow. Okay, that's a distribution of answers. Actually, the main purpose is to provide you with your agency's DAI scores. Of course, you can look at the others as well, but this is the main purpose. Okay, all right, let's look at the leaderboard and see who is now at the top.
Is it still Boo?
Oh wow.
Oh.
We have a new set of people in QT.
QT,
Okay,
okay.
QT is now there. All right, okay.
All right, next question. What can you use your packs for? Is it A, perform analysis? Is it B, engage your parent agencies? C, consult experts? Or D, all of the above? I see the answer count rising really fast for this one.
Okay, looks like we're almost done.
10 seconds to go.
Yeah, which one?
Okay. Oh, TikTok, 3 seconds. Which one is it?
One.
All right, looks like almost everybody got the correct answer. Yeah, so yes, you can use your pets for a lot of things, right? Internal analysis, take it to your parent agencies, and talk to your consultants about it if you want to as well.
Yes,
Okay,
it's all
let's
of
take
the
a look.
above. Great.
Yes.
Who is now at the top?
Oh,
Wow,
QT is still leading. Wow, good job.
Okay,
I see City is in second place.
Yeah, moved up, you know. Wow, okay, it's a close fight. Let's look at number 4. So what scores are associated with the maturity levels? So we know there are 4 levels. So is it starting from 0 to 100? Is it from 100 to 0? Or does it start from 25, 50, 75? So what are the scores associated with each level?
Better look carefully, right? The numbers could jumble up your eyes.
Looks like a math question.
Yes.
For PSLE. Okay. All right. So really put this in so that you have a clear understanding of integrating the scores for your report. So it starts from 0, which is level 1, moving up to 100 at level 4, and it goes 0, 33, 67, and 100. So it's red color. All right. Okay, let's look at the leaderboard once more. Oh, this is very exciting. We have a new refresh list now. Pat is at the top.
Okay, you got Pat and BB. Wow, 12 players have answer streaks. Wow, well done.
Wow, amazing.
Okay, if there are multiple respondents from your agencies, how are the scores aggregated? Is it select the highest, select the lowest, select the latest submission, or average it?
Yeah, and I really want to do a shout out to all the agencies who have sent in multiple responses, because that will capture a more holistic kind of response and perspective from different parts of the organization. So thank you very much for taking the effort to do that.
Absolutely, that's very true. Okay, 3 seconds left. Looks like almost everybody got the correct answer, right? We averaged the scores, right? As Tracy said, to get a holistic view.
Yes, that was like a hint.
Yes.
Okay, let's look at the leaderboard right now.
Oh, okay, Pat.
Wow.
Okay, let's see. Wow, 35 players on
Okay.
a streak. Wow, very well done.
Yeah, amazing. And Pat is there on the top, and we have like 3 more questions. Okay, let's go. Number 6. Now we have 3 numbers A, B, C. What do they represent? If you have been paying good attention to the bars, you would know A, B, C. Is that your overall score? Is it your dimension score? Is it your current score? Is it your peer score? So how do you actually read that bar? This looks like another PSLE question.
Yeah.
In your science paper. Okay, let's see. Okay, yeah, most people got it right. Yeah, that's right. We look at the bar again. So C is your current score, A is your target score, and so B is your gap to target. Let's see our leaderboard right now.
Wow. Pat is
Wow,
still in the lead.
okay.
Okay.
Yes, wow, Pat is running
DC
very
is still on the
strong.
leaderboard.
Yeah,
Wow.
and Monday
Okay.
vibes are coming up. Okay.
Okay, what does your agency scorecard contain? What is it? Your agency scores across the building blocks, top motivators and challenges, your focus areas and areas of support, or all of the above? Which is it?
Again, all these look very legit, so it could be the
Maybe
correct
it could be a trick
answer.
question. Who knows? Okay, 1 second left. Okay, it is all of the above, right? You got all these elements over there. If you want to check it out, right? Open your gift backpack and have a look at this page.
Yes, when in doubt, choose all of the above. Okay, let's take a look right now.
Okay, wow, Pat is still in the lead. Okay, very good.
Yeah,
So I
everyone
think
is catching up.
on to the last question already, right?
Yes,
Let's see
the
if
last
anyone can catch up.
question. Wow, last question. So if you are just starting your digitalization journey, what is your first step? Your first step, is it to develop a digital strategy? Is it to start hiring more staff? Is it start buying the newest and most shiny technology? Or is it start sending all your staff for upskilling? The first thing you need to do, you should begin here, which is the correct answer. Can we have everyone?
Ooh,
Yes,
okay.
that's right. Yes, we should start by developing a coherent digital strategy. That is correct. Okay, we have come to the end of the quiz. Aren't we excited? Let's take a look.
Okay,
On
let's
the
see.
podium.
In third place.
Wow, we've got 8 out of 8 as well. Monday
Yeah,
vibes.
Monday vibes.
You truly have the vibes.
Macho.
And we have Macho. And number 1 is
Pat.
Okay, do we have these 3 persons on our video? And we have Rego and Sleepy. Not bad, Sleepy on a Monday, but number 5. We have who these people are.
Okay,
Okay,
come.
wave and say
Yeah,
hello.
come on your video wave and everyone can give them a big clap. All right, who's Pat?
Do we have Pat there?
Pat?
Okay, do we have them?
No, too shy.
Nope. Okay, congratulations. I hope this segment has provided more information on how you can read the gift backpack. All right, so thank you, Ronnie. Thank you very much for sharing with us and a very fun quiz. Thank you. Okay, right now we'll move on to the next part, and I will bring up Eric from SASCO, who will be sharing with us how they use the DAI results for doing their digitalization planning. Eric, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy, and hello everyone, and good afternoon, and really feeling very privileged to be here. But you had an exciting part of the afternoon, already. I'm not sure whether this part hopefully can be of some excitement to you. Um, okay, my name is Eric Song. I'm the head of corporate planning in Sasco Senior Citizens Home. Let me start the story very quickly. The Sasco story, we don't know who we are already. Basically, Sasco Limited is 90 years old. Sasco Senior Citizens Home is a program under Sasco Limited. And so we have a parent-child structure, very unique. That another story for another day. But basically, we were born in 1981. Does that slide show it? Yeah, we were born in 1981 in a void deck in Teluk Blangah. All right, that's a sheltered home. Next slide. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, but now we have actually daycare centers and active aging centers, and basically serving the elder care sector before nursing home. So we cater for the spectrum before nursing home. Next slide. Yeah. So this is where we've come from a void deck in Teluk Blangah to 1 sheltered home, 4 daycare centers, and 3 active aging centers. Yeah, so to tell you about our digitalization journey, I must tell you against the backdrop of our organizational excellence journey. We're just fortunate that during this time, during this time when we do our digitalization, basically we're also embarking on an organizational excellence journey. So let me just go through. This is just a quick snapshot of our journey, starting basically a little back in 2018, but mainly in 2020, where we made some main changes, highlights in yellow, basically having an admin committee and then moving to a HQ, moving to Alexandra Road in 2021, and doing the DAI in 2021 at OHFSS, which is Organizational Health Framework for Social Services. Now, these two basically tools just came in time when we were really looking for something to say how to assess ourselves. All right. So 2022 and 2023, basically we go start our planning journey, going to summits and looking at our plans. And 2024, we're going to do something else, some more. Next. Yeah, so in 2021, when we started to embark on our journey, we started to look at digitalization for a while first, and then DAI came along. So we took the assessment. Now, okay, so it's not like we had nothing in place. We have some things in place already. But maybe for this part, let me just point out that we actually achieved a digital starter where we scored ourselves, and we were a bit conservative and aim for literate, so to speak. Next slide. Yes, and this is where we did the DAI. All right. So we sort of got this from our scores, and what came out was a master plan, or rather a summary matrix, which we thought could be a master plan for us with all the things inside there. So the next slide will show you what we actually prioritize using this matrix or summary matrix. We thought it was very useful. I mean, from where we started, we were just starting out. We have some corporate function systems already in place, but not really sort of talking to each other, and we thought of looking at an upgrade, and it was probably timely at that point in time. And then we're looking at operations like fundraising, volunteer management, procurement, very big for us, all right, and looking at the service delivery in our healthcare portion. So this matrix actually gave us a very good snapshot of what we could work on, starting very easily first on the systems for the support functions. We thought we were in dire need. Yeah. So going ahead. Yes, so the OHFS also came aboard, and we also were trying to triangulate the tools that we were using. And this OHFS gave us a very overall view of the organization, and we scored ourselves, and we can look at the digitalization part. It was actually the lowest of all our scores. That's because we were like starting out and have some things, but not everything in place. right? So we scored 61.1%. That was fair, all right? And so we embarked on our strategic planning journey. We call it our midterm plan. Actually, it's from 2022, but we actually started then in 2022 a bit and into 2023, and the plan was 2023 to 2025. So we had a first retreat, and well, we went overseas a little bit so that we can be away from all distractions here. Important here is that we got our board members involved, the key board members and the key staff personnel that did up all the plans, the proposed plans, and sort of make a presentation for all to see. And we gathered outside of Singapore, and yeah, and try to come up with some directional roadmap. Next slide. Yeah, so when we came back, we sort of know roughly where we wanted to go, but we needed some help, and we got the help of a consultant who actually was engaged at NCS at that point in time. So we had A Advantage that helped us, and they facilitated this to come up with this roadmap with a team of middle management. So, and basically we had four, so we came up with 4 strategic trusts and then 16 initiatives that fall within this 4 strategic trusts, right? The next slide. Okay, so in very specific to show you that we had actually a slide on to say, oh, okay, this is our initiative and what it's about to do in a sense. All right, with the objectives basically to come up with your digitalization master plan and what we intend to do and achieve at an excellent level in time to come. Right. So we had this map, right? And then although we sort of circle in red, prioritizing in a way, but within this circles as well, we prioritize what we wanted to start first. So support function systems were the ones that we started first. Next. Yes, so it was one of the initiative. Yeah, maybe I did manage to point out earlier. Digitalization transformation actually was one of the 16 initiatives when we came back from the strategic planning. So the IT department then looked at this with a master plan, look at OHFSS, all right, and then we determined that we wanted to do embark on the software application systems for our support functions, and also the operations part that would support these plans. So basically, all right, the compliance framework, risk management, training for staff, all right, and the usual admin part of the department. So staff training became something that came up and said, okay, we need to get staff up to speed, all right, on what they need to know, especially like policy, compliance, cybersecurity, and literacy, basically of digitalization. Then we, having had that 16 initiatives, digitalization be one of them, we look at all of that, and then we went to a second retreat and then reviewed, and that snapshot there was our revised sort of targets. All right. Again, the core members and key staffs were involved. Almost the same people. Yeah. Next. Yes, and so this is to show the 16 initiatives. We revised it, take out some, added some. All right. I think here is also where we actually sort of have the people assigned, all right, to do the initiatives already. All right. So there were people in charge. So we are fortunate, SASCO. I mean, according to our structure, we have a middle management team under the HODs. So we have the CEO, HODs, and then the middle management team. And so everyone has some project or initiative to look after. Right. So yeah, so what actually did we do or have we done in 2023, coming up from the DAI and OHFSS supporting it? We actually look at the digitalization projects, all right? Mentioned a bit to prioritize, evaluate and prioritize, looking at processes of our operations, and then see how digitalization can help or technology can help in that areas. Looking at the stakeholder journeys, I mean, how they they function, and how they could do better with with technology, and looking user touch point experience, right? So basically one big area really systematic review of the processes, especially like procurement. There was not the understanding of procurement process wasn't quite there for everyone. So make sure that everyone can come onto the same page regarding a process like procurement, from buying to getting finance to pay. So we talk about upscaling staff with training, and then this part we have a bit not quite into it. Having data, what do we do with it? So some of the areas like fundraising, we could use some of the data to analyze and see whether we can do better. And last but not least, we managed to get our data protection trust mark in 2022. Yeah. Okay, so this basically shows a very detailed plan of what we did with our software applications. Okay, so we actually used funding from grants, and because of that, there was a bit of a lack of time. So, so we actually planned such that it goes live in stages. All right, starting with actually holistic care was one of the first to start, and then we had our human resource, and then finance. And actually, in looking at these software applications, this is where we met as a team of HODs to actually look at the processes and then determine that how can these systems actually talk to one another. So in the selection of these systems, it was very important that which one we determine first. So to share, basically, we actually said a holistic care system must be the one for the healthcare system that should drive what we needed for the rest. Actually, next was finance, because everything needs to talk to finance. So finance systems needs to be very comprehensive. Then whatever else other systems that we got on board is basically that they must be able to talk to the finance system in a nutshell. All right. Yeah. Okay, so remember we said we were also on an organizational excellence journey. All right, so this part is where we got our scores in 2022, and then we did our assessment again in 2023. So the comparison, you can see that almost all the pink becomes green, right? 61.1 to 73.3. So very quickly, just to circle, and actually the biggest jump, if you could see from there, is actually digitalization from 51% to 75%. So that's to show how, where we have come, right? Next. Yeah, so we analyze internally and look at the areas that although we have ping, although improvement, what else can we do? Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so this was our score in 2023. You remember we had 21 and now 59. So we were starter, now we are performer. We've come quite some way. We want to maintain this, and maybe our target's a bit too high. We might want to adjust that a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, and this is just to show where we've come and also to see where we are with the rest of our peers, right? Yeah. Yeah, so some of the challenges we met, basically one is really when we look at the processes, we need really ascertain carefully and say these are the processes each of the department needs to understand well before we actually determine the application softwares. Secondly, I think we relied a lot on the funding grants. Basically, actually we hardly spent a lot of money on digitalization in a way, because most of the systems are funded by the grants, but the downsides are, okay, we got to wait a little bit for the approvals before we can buy the systems. And then the regular monitoring and updates, it takes some time, all right? But I think because of the organizational excellence journey, it helps us to really keep us looking at it every quarterly. And of course, the bandwidth to look into everything, right? So in a nutshell, to start a journey, we actually first did the DAI assessment. That was important. That was important to show where we were and where we are at that point in time, all right, including the OHFSS. And then obtain buy-in. The OE journey helped us in getting everyone on board, key staff buy-in. And then there is actually ripple effects in digitalization, because when you look at processes, then you improve everything else in a way. All right. So talk about regular monitoring that came about because of the OE journey. And our next step really is to do the OHDS, to get someone independent outside to really assess us and validate whether we really are that good or good as of now. Thank you. Yeah, so this is myself, my colleague Maria just couldn't be here today, but if there's anything, be feel free to look us up anyway. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Eric, for sharing your journey. In fact, I think it is really a great initiative within SASCO that the leaders from the top and everyone in the organization is part of this journey. And you not only look at the strategy, but you also look at the prioritization of your initiatives as well as upskilling your people. So I think there is a very holistic view on this entire digitalization effort. And you have also used the data from your OHFSS as well as DAI to guide your prioritization. Okay, very good. Thank you very much. So right now, I just want to go to the resources part. And I see some questions in which I would address along the way as we go through on the resources. Okay, come. Okay, because we do have different groups of participants in this webinar. So I have to kind of split up our resources sharing to the different groups. So first, I will share the resources available to NCSS members. Okay, so I will want everyone to just go to our TechUp website. So if you have your phones and you can click on that, scan that QR code and go to our website. Yeah, and then you can follow as I go along. So there are these major tabs there on our TechUp website. And we have a lot of resources for you. And I think from the DAI survey, funding continues to be like the top need and challenge as well, right? So the first thing I wanted to bring to attention is the DAI webpage. So we have set up the DAI webpage. If you are at the TechUp webpage, you can click on this box. Okay, so we have the pre-launch slides and the recording there is there. And today's session, so today's slides, including the slides from BCG, from SASCO, all the slides that we shared today, as well as today's recording, it will be posted to this DAI webpage, right? So you may want to bookmark and come back to this webpage later on to get the link to today's materials as well as resources. And then we have the Industry Digital Plan for Social Services. So this one is specific to NCSS members for our SSAs. So we are going to refresh our IDPSS later part of this year. Yeah, so it'll be a lot of questions is that about how we are going to take the next step, what are the guidance. So you can use the current IDPSS or give us some time to refresh our IDPSS. It will become the Social Services Digitalization Playbook with a lot more information on the focus areas you can work on, templates, resources. Okay, that will be available in the second half of the year. All right. Okay, and then if you look at the funding and support, so we have tech subsidies, we have consultancy subsidies, we have IT professional services. I won't be able to go into detail today, but if you go to the website, you can read up on all the scope that we have. Right, and if you want to zoom into the different type of solutions that we fund, you can click on the IT solutions. Okay, and if you need some self-help tools or templates, and we talk a lot about digital strategy, if you are wanting to take a step at developing digital strategy within your teams, we do have templates, self-help toolkits for you and your team to attempt, with very detailed instructions on how you can build and put together a digital strategy. So check out our resources. Okay, and then just now Eric also touched on the OHFSS, so that's our health framework for social services. Yeah, so I think there is already a lot of mention, from Seng-Chi, from Eric, that digitalization is a key enabler. You need to look at this, in the bigger scheme of things on how DG and tech is going to support your organizational outcomes and your vision and your mission. Yeah, so digitalization is one of the domains in our overall health framework. So this is the OHFSS has been developed to help our SSAs to have a holistic view. And yes, I know you say this is another survey. Yes, this is another survey, but this is going to take a broader lens apart and beyond digitalization. There will be the other indicators and elements that are needed to support your organizational growth. So to also take the question right now that do your DAI results affect your grant application? Okay, the answer is no. We are not going to see like, only someone who has passed a certain score can get the funding. But the OHFSS and the DAI would be imperative when we look at your justification for applying for the grant. Yeah, so I think the intention is really to partner and support the SSA to ensure that the technology that we are funding, the technology that you're spending time, you're investing effort in to implement, is really going to help you to improve your health. So the results, well, we're not going to have any cut-off point, but we will be looking at these results together with you, to understand the justification or the outcomes that you are looking to achieve with that technology. Okay, so it is actually a three-step process. So on a highest level, we hope that you can take the OHFSS. If you have not, you can have that one. And then if you want to go for a deeper dive, we also have the Health Diagnostic Scheme. This is a consultancy scheme for you to look into which areas you need to zoom into your health. And of course, from there, you will have more understanding on your priorities, and then you can tap on our capability building funding. Right, and it may not just be tech specific, because within the health, we also have other things like people practice or thought leadership or financial sustainability. Yeah, so the health is really like a more holistic view of which digitalization is one of the domains. Okay, yeah, so if you have not heard about our health framework workshop, it's coming up next on March 14. Yeah, so do scan this QR code to register, and it's actually encouraged for the leader of the agency or a diagnostic lead that has been identified. So like Eric is the diagnostic lead, right? So come for the workshop, understand more about this, and then you can get this going within your organizations. Okay, so that is for NCSS members. So I want to go on to funding support for charities who are non-NCSS members. So for charities, you can tap on the Charities Capability Fund, the CCF. So if you have your phones with you, you're a charity, a non-NCSS member, please scan this QR code, right? And there will be all the applicable grants for you. I just want to highlight and point your attention to the ICT grant. So the ICT grant, we have A and B. So A funds the basic infrastructure, computers, printers, broadband, where part B, right, category B will be funding digital solutions that's targeted to improve your productivity, right? And we also have consultancy grants that will fund you for various domains and aspects. And if you go down to a few bullets somewhere in the middle, you will see digitalization, data protection, cybersecurity. So you can also tap on the CCF grant to do any consultancy related to digitalization or digital strategy planning. And finally, for ComCare organizations who are non-NCSS members, you can click on scan this QR code. So when where the SSAs have the IDPSS, the ComCare organizations can also refer to the CCDTP, which is the ComCare Digital Transformation Plan. So there are also guidelines and roadmaps in the CCDTP that can guide your digitalization journey. So on the same page, you will find details on the Productivity and Digitalization Grant, the PDG, where you can apply funding for assistive technology, other non-green lane or green lane, or even consultancy as well. Okay, so I think we have been really calling out to everyone to really start thinking about digital strategy. So if you feel like you need more help and professional help from our consultants, you can tap on our highly subsidized consultancy expertise. So whether you're an NCSS member, charity, or you're ComCare, we do have consultants, consultancy programs funded at a very high quantum to help you to get started on developing a holistic digital strategy for your organization. Okay, so the slides will be sent later, so you can click on those links depending on which group you fall into. Okay, so for NCSS members, so I think this is follow-up from what Eileen was saying in the beginning. So maybe there are more specific questions, right, to your organization. So today's session, we are like addressing questions that are more across the board. There is more, applicable to everyone. But if you do have a question that is very specific to your agency, right? We will be holding clinics in batches. Yeah, so it will not be one-on-one, it will be like a group clinic. We're trying to organize this in person as far as possible. And so after this session, we'll send out the link for NCSS members to sign up at the clinic. So after this session, if you take your report back, you review this with your management, and then you come up with the questions and you think, I want to go to a clinic, so please sign up, right? Sending your questions during the registration, so we kind of understand, where are the places that we need to cover, right? And then we will arrange the sessions in March and April timeframe for everyone together, and then we can facilitate that session with the SSAs. All right, so look out for our registration. It's going to close end of February, and then we'll have the workshops in March and April. Okay, and these are our contacts. So for NCSS members, you can come to TechUP. For charities, you can write to the Charity Council. And for ComCare, do write to ccdtp@aic.sg. Okay, so I hope I have not gone so quickly because there are a lot of questions right now. Okay, we'll go to the Q&A part. So I invite back Eric as well as Sing Chi. I'll try to take all your questions. So if you have a specific question, regarding any area, that you can address it to us directly, and then we'll try to take it from there. I want to, let's take this. Okay, do we have Sing Chi? Okay, I think there is this question I really want to address first. Maybe we go to the Q&A, the FAQ slide. Okay, so there is this question on, may I have a copy of the survey questions? All right, yeah, so so it cannot be distributed as they are proprietary to BCG. Yeah, so we will have you to look at your heat map, the different dimensions, look at your score, and also Ronnie has covered like what those scores mean, if you are between 0 to 33 or somewhere between 1 and 2. Yeah, so that will give you some kind of indication on where you are right now. All right, yeah, so that should be a good resource, the heat map. If you look back to a heat map, you'll be able to kind of get a good gauge on where you are. All right. Okay, so let's look at the Q&A list right now. Okay, I believe we have answered the question on whether the results of the DAI play a part in the funding approval process. No, we don't really look at what score you are, but we should be looking at whether it aligns with your organizational objectives and how that tag is going to help you to improve your digital maturity or your health. Okay, let's see. Okay, okay, sorry, there are many questions. Let me see.
I think we answered most of the questions already.
Yes, I think so. Let me see. Okay, maybe let me take at the bottom. Yep, correct. Yep, go ahead.
Maybe I can take the question regarding the 2 IT staff. How we did OHFSS and implement various software. Yeah, we only have 2 IT staff. When OHFSS was concerned, I mean, basically we first had a team of 9 people that did the scoring. After that, it's just myself and CEO that sort of managed that, sort of aggregate that, and then 2 of us submitted the score. That's with NCSS approval. I think, and then where the software is concerned, basically we work as a team of head of department, with the head of IT leading. I mean, where the software is, let's say, concerning with finance, I mean, she will help with the quotations and all that, but the finance manager would have to determine what is the the system that she would like, and depending on the scope of things. And therefore, we work as a team in scoping out the specs for each of the system that's needed in the respective areas. And then, yeah, that's how we came together. So I think one of the maybe important thing to note, perhaps I want people to note, is that the systems for each of the areas, I think it has to be integrated. I think the problem we faced was that with the old system, because it was sort of sourced in silos, so there were a lot of problems in that sense. But with this digitalization exercise, we actually came together and determined, actually, wow, we actually need integrate system that can actually really talk, make sure they can able to talk to each other. So I think that's an important point. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. And I think there's also this question about like dedicated IT staff. Okay, I can give it a step first, and then maybe since you can chime in, right? I think it is important to have dedicated staff. Yeah, but as to the level of IT expertise, I think, of course, this is a continual challenge to many organizations to have like IT knowledgeable staff. But definitely, you know, we need to have staff that have some basic IT literacy understanding. Yeah, and of course, it will be a benefit if you have staff that understands IT projects. But we know that all the organizations, you know, may not have that. Yeah, so that's why we have consultancy programs, and we do have self-help tools as well. You can come to us and we can share that with you. Yeah, so I feel like you need to have staff dedicated to those initiatives so that you can have accountability, reporting, and, you know, have a very, you know, follow through. Yeah, but as to the level of IT expertise, I think that varies according to each agency. Yes, Xin Chi, you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, no, I fully agree. I think there's a couple of things, right? I think there is one part of the dedicated person looking at it, right? That's really for accountability, to make sure that you meet your goals or you continue to track, right? To make sure progress is made. Because if it's a third, fourth, fifth priority for someone, then it tends to slip through the cracks. I think that's the point of dedicated piece. But now in terms of skills, the question then is, I think, about finding the right skills for the specific use case that you're looking at. So you don't need to try and get teams or people with skills to do everything in the beginning, especially if you're getting started. If you're trying to find out, okay, how do I actually deploy a CMS solution, right? Or maybe it's an analytics solution, or is it just a reporting dashboard? Whatever that may be, the skill sets may be slightly different. And so you can just be very targeted at just building and trying to upskill your maybe existing staff or hire someone depending on your resourcing, right? To be able to just do that one thing first, right? Then they build comfort, and slowly then you expand it, versus trying to say, oh, you must be able to do these 10 things at once, because then that'll be very, very challenging and requires a very different set of skills as well. Right? So just think about it in modular manners, right? Step by step, trying to get there rather than trying to do everything at once, because otherwise having this mythical IT person that can magically do everything is, number one, very hard to find, even in the private sector, right? Number two, right, it's going to make it seem more daunting than it actually is.
Thanks, Xin Chi. Okay, I think there are still some questions, maybe more on for Eric, right?
Where?
Yeah, whether you're using any cloud-based and whether you find them helpful. And yeah.
Okay, Barry is not with me. But we are outsourced. Some of the systems we use are actually cloud-based. Like I think our donation management system or donor management system. We just have getting it on board. I believe it's cloud-based. Yeah. So yeah, we do in some ways, I think.
Yeah. So I think also wanted to reiterate that the inputs on your DAI report, so those are the responses from the survey. Yeah, so it is your own inputs. So if you had input level 1, that will be equal to the score of 0. Yeah, so it's what as Ronnie has shared. So if you have indicated I don't know or not applicable, then it will be blank, right? So we are not able to recalibrate the results from this study. Yeah, so probably in the next round of survey, probably in 3 years from now, so we run this every 3 years, you know, that's when you need to be more specific or calibrated among all the respondents who are taking that survey in your organization to pack your organization at the right level. Okay. Okay, so for funding, right? So maybe let me clarify again on the funding. So we currently do not have any schemes to support just pure manpower. So if you're talking or asking about whether we have funding to put in one new person in SSA, so currently we don't have that, but we are transitioning to a new funding scheme very soon, in the next 1 or 2 months or so. Yeah, so for NCSS members, you also have also asked that your application, what's going to happen to them, and what's the outcome. So I think we are encouraging all of you, after today's webinar, look at your DAI results, right? And then calibrate it against your strategy, your digital strategy. If you have one, if you don't have one, then start thinking about developing one with our available resources, right? And then look at the type that you're going to apply and how does that fall into meeting or aligning with your organizational objectives or visual strategy, right? So, and then with that, wait for the announcement of our new funding scheme. Yeah, and we're going to roll more announcements in the following month or so. Yeah, and then see, where your needs meet and what funding you need to apply, right? Okay. Let me see. Okay, so the question on the workshop, individual SSOs. No, there won't be. Okay, so just to clarify, the workshop will be a group, right? So after this session, we'll send out the link for SSAs to sign up for the clinics, and then we will get back to you. Okay, Go Digital Funding, is it open now? No. So like what we say, go look at your DAI right now and see what your tech needs are, and then wait for announcement on our new funding scheme, and then we can go from there. Okay. Following up on Wilson's question, let me see. Okay, maybe Xing-Chi, you can take the question regarding, is the social service sector really expected to aim for level 4? Yeah, I
think I addressed this just now when we were sharing also. I think why we have the 4 levels is to ensure comparability across the board, because we're doing this with IMDA as well, right? So private sector, public sector, social service sector, right? But as I think mentioned just now when we were sharing the results, at the end of the day, it's about where you want to be able to achieve the outcomes. Right? No one's saying that the social service sector must be level 4 or reach 100 points on everything, right? The question is, where do you want to be? And what we hear from various people, right, from the SSAs, is that you want to be around level 3 or so. To the point of AI, robotics, etc., actually, we would argue that social service sector has use cases there, right? So, for example, for AI, especially with generative AI now, when we think about case note summarization, right, or transcription, right, that is at the back end AI-based. Right, robotics has a range of service robots to be able to facilitate and help people who are in home care settings, etc. So you don't have to think about robotics in the manufacturing sense, but there are also relevant use cases there as well, right? But at the end of the day, it really depends on where at an organization level, where do you want to be able to achieve your outcomes versus having to feel as though, I mean, I know in Singapore, we always say, oh, must get maximum score, right? But you don't have to, right? There's no, even NCSS also doesn't feel that, oh, you must be X score by Y date, right? Just to be clear.
Okay, so there are a lot of questions about when the new funding scheme is going to be released. Yeah, so I would just say it's in the next 1 or 2 months or so. Yeah, so that's the information that we have right now. So I will ask patients from all the SSAs, right, to wait and look up for the information that we're going to release on the new funding scheme. All right, and will there be a technical marketplace this year? We're still working on it, so I don't think we'll be able to do such a large scale, right? But how do you go about looking for IT firms, right? Yeah, so you can go to our website. So just now we know there's a tab on IT solutions. So there are pre-scoped, pre-approved solutions and also green lane ones, yeah, that you can look at, right? And if you need more information, you can always write into our technical mailbox. Okay. Okay, so I think there's a question regarding the survey questions. Xing-Chi, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of things. I think they were asking about the survey questions. I think we aren't able to share the survey questions, but I think we can share the structure of the survey questions, or the structure is what Ronnie shared earlier, right? That typically level 1 means that you don't have anything. Level 2 means you have started some pilots, right? Level 3 means that you've started to deploy, right, in a particular function, right? And level 4 is deploying at scale across the organization. I think in terms of actually making it concrete, it's less about having a survey questions, right? It's more that, I mean, we're working with NCSS to develop the social service digital plan that goes almost in those functions to say, how do you actually develop a strategy? How do you actually upskill your workforce? How do you actually transform, right, your end-to-end operations or your service delivery? And that is looking to come out in, I think, second half, right? Q3, if I'm not wrong. Tracy, correct me if I'm wrong, right? And that would actually be what would be useful to be able to help you reach your goal, right? That's a roadmap part we're talking about. In the interim, I think NCSS has an older version of the IDPSS if you'd like to refer to as well, right? But that's, I think, at least what we think will be meaningful for SSAs, right? Versus saying that, oh, level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, right? Because that won't be actionable, right, for you immediately to say, how do you actually bridge the gap from level 1 to 2 or 2 to 3?
Yeah, thanks, Xing-Chi. Okay, so if you have the open application right now, so we are pausing the applications in view of the new funding scheme that will be released. So the instructions will be to wait for announcement on the new funding scheme, right? And then there will also be communication sessions, I think workshops, webinars that have been arranged to communicate the new funding scheme to SSAs. So attend that one, and then you can see which funding is applicable for you. And under the new funding scheme, we will be requiring SSAs to do the OHFSS assessment as a mandatory requirement for submitting for grant applications. Yeah, so OHFSS will be mandatory moving forward, not only for applications more than 90K. So I think in the meantime, if the organization has yet to do that, please look into it, sign up for our OHFSS workshop that's coming up 14th of March, and get that diagnostic going for your organization. Okay, I think we are coming to, oh, we are over time, okay. So I think we have gone on, I think we have covered most of the questions. Okay, I think just a quick one on the clinic, right? So I think the clinic is really there to answer the agency's inquiries at a deeper level or a more personal or organizational level. So we do ask you to put in your questions when you sign up so that we know what we can cover, right? Because I think we have kind of on a broad base covered all the sections of the report. But if you look at it and you still have questions, then you can put in those questions in our registration form, and then we'll arrange the session with the groups. Okay, so I think, yeah, we're running over time. So thank you all for being with us today. And I just want you to hang on and do the feedback. Okay, there's one more initiative that's coming up for NCSS members. So we're trying to have the networking platform. So we're trying to structure, you know, some kind of get together for our SSAs, right? So we need you to indicate whether you're interested to join any of those platforms and what are topics of interest. Yeah, so that we could kind of gather like-minded people at different settings, and we can talk about best practices and experiences. Yeah, so please go to the feedback forum, let us know which are the topics or whether you'll be wanting to join those sessions. All right, then we can you know, get in touch with you when we have those platforms going, right? Okay, so thank you for your time. We'll send you an email with all the links to the resources after this, but of course you can feel free to come to us, to Ingo or to myself. Okay, thank you very much. Yep, please fill up the feedback form. Appreciate your time for us this afternoon, and thank you to our presenters. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Xing-Chi, and all our keyboard warriors.